official reports.
Just talk through slowly.
We have a meeting between one of you there, the meeting that the library, right?
Yeah, just
So
saying.
you want me to?
I have no ex officio. One of my budget committee will lesson on starter and nothing on the planning board.
So the library meeting, if you've seen the video, that's probably like 30 minutes of them bashing the select board and the town lawyer. It's pretty much all they accomplished. They did announce that they got the funding. They didn't have to wait to voting to see what's going on. Today, Sarah and I took a business trip down to Concord to CDFA themselves. We do have the full CDFA application. It will be in the town office for you to view whenever you want. So to wait for the certain days that the library is open. We can go over questions later about it. We'll answer what we can. No appointments?
Nope.
No. Any new business?
No, just old business.
Go over that.
Yeah, well, I just want to bring up once again, because I'm going to be at pain.
Gonna be a bully?
Yeah.
Oh,
I won't be a bully, I'll be a pain. That's the, remember I talked last time about the action item list, the to-do list, so I kind of made one up myself, and I haven't added anything to it, or we haven't assigned anybody to these tasks, but I think I took up some of them at any rate, and I was going to talk, about the drainage at the museum with somebody from the road crew. I haven't done that. The pole barn is an ongoing thing, so that's more of a long-range planning process that we're going to have to
most of this is
discuss.
going to be wait for spring.
Wait for
Snow
spring.
is gone.
Yeah, even moving things in and out of there is tough when the snow. It's tough when there's no snow, and it's even tougher now. And like the parsonage is after the election, and see what happens there. Handyman, have we advertised for that, or what are we going to
Probably
do?
should advertise for handyman.
Bad idea to advertise for a handyman. And in the back of my mind is Avatar and the upcoming contract with them, and the upcoming reval that's coming too. So that's all I have on that for now.
Steve, would you like me to work on a project workbook for action items?
I think that'd be great if you would. I'd appreciate that.
Other business. The HEB engineering agreement modification.
Okay, so this is in regards to the culvert replacement on Wild Meadow Road that they have been working on for
Since the town was founded?
since 2018, so yeah, and this is an update on that. So last year they had to go towards a newer grant for this work. They're asking for an additional $2,500. And then there's a detailed an attachment with a description.
So what's the story with the grant? Are they applying for a grant?
Yeah, they're applying for another grant
They're,
because we didn't get the original one.
yeah, so HEB is applying for a grant on our behalf
Yes.
to do the engineering and the work.
Correct.
Okay. And the last time it was turned down, you were saying?
Yeah, so the last time, the original grant that they were going for was turned down, so then last year they started working towards
This one here.
this one here.
Okay. Yeah, this is a project that's been in the minds of different road agents for a while.
Yeah. get clarification from Jeff. I wanna say it's the dual culvert, but I
don't see anything wrong with those two culverts. Yeah, I'll talk to Jeffrey, see which ones they are.
Is that something that needs to be signed
yes.
by the chair?
Probably.
Go get it here. Yeah, you would be the authorized representative.
So do you know the total amount we'll be giving them, or is it just the 2,500?
So this is, on top of what we've already given them.
So I'll motion,
And honestly, it's been really quiet since last March, so they're finally at a point where they're now getting to the end of the submission of the grant, where it's almost.
so I'll motion we accept that agreement from HEB.
I'll second. Contract agreement with Associates.
So that's that ongoing lawsuit with PSNH, and Sam Sosi is doing the discovery work
Yeah.
for the towns.
Yeah.
Think you know more about that lawsuit than I do?
Yeah, well, I know.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time since I've been involved in that, but we have had a number of lawsuits from, there's this name PSNH, Eversource,
Maybe PSNH, right?
and also with the other carriers. And it's basically over taxation and valuation.
Yeah, I think they should be paying, I think, for tolls and stuff.
And so, to me, it's a bonanza for the lawyers, but there's got to be, at least the PSNH must think there's a pot of gold at the end of it. And the last time, there wasn't. So we'll see. So, do we need to make a motion to sign this? I'll make a motion to sign the agreement with Associates.
Second.
Does this mean we have to get a witness? Does this need to be notarized?
Let me see. If it does, I can do that. And it doesn't look like it needs to be notarized,
Okay.
but yeah, it does look like
It looks like
you
it's,
just need a witness to each of your signatures, so
Okay.
I should be.
so
able to
you'll
do
be the
that.
witness?
Yeah. You guys sign
Witness,
on the right, I sign on
witness.
the left.
Gotta get a witness.
All right, timber tax. You know, just motion for this, we just sign it, right?
On the first.
for tax warrants.
Yeah.
Or did you sign the second page too?
Yep.
So we're supposed to be usual.
We're reading the correspondence. From Keith Bowden, Department of Safe, no, DOS, Department of Safety, Jesus. Please see the attached letter of this message, presenting updates.
Fireworks safety updates in
Oh.
towns.
Yeah, State Fire Marshal level, RSA 160, so on. It's in the process of updating its list of municipalities in the state of New Hampshire where the use, display, or possession of permissible consumer fireworks is restricted or prohibited. RSA 160, so-and-so states that any municipality in the state, by action of its local legislative body or local governing body, may vote to allow or to prohibit within the municipality the insurance or permits or licenses to sell permissible fireworks or the display or possession of permissible fireworks. We don't have any restrictions here, do we? Which might
We don't have any local restrictions, whatever the state has.
Yeah, it's just fireworks. Displays only we were worried about.
And it's sent a copy of it to the rec department just in case there was anything that was pertinent.
Fogel sent us their copy of their insurance
Okay.
for the 2 library lots. Okay, usually if we send a letter to the select board, I will not read it in the meeting unless you show up. I'm gonna break that rule tonight, because this one has to be read. And hold on, because it's a long one. Dear Select Board, after viewing this deliberative session, I had some concerns come to mind and wanted to share them. It was brought out that the funding is a loan, potentially forgivable, not a grant as it has been repeatedly claimed in fundraising was carried out presenting it as a grant. Am I the only one that finds this rather fraudulent? Intentional perversion of truth in order to induce another to part with something of value is literally the definition of fraud in the dictionary. I know that we're going to hear, oh well, it was technically blah blah blah, but a loan is a loan and a grant is not. We only have a former president on trial for this right now. I am on the belief that had it not been called out at the town meeting, that the townspeople would have been left in the dark on this until it was too late should the warrant article pass, if they were ever told. Seemed a lot easier to me to sell it as a grant than a loan, which may need to be paid back. Someone knew that. It was also brought out that there is a library trustee who is also a trustee of the trust funds and an officer of Fogel at the deliberative session. Although it may not be illegal by the letter of the law, by him to know. But am I the only one that finds this concerning due to conflict of interest in retaining a fair and unbiased opinion? I find it concerning that we have a member of a private organization pushing a project and also sitting on board that is being asked to supply funding for that same project where there is clearly personal interest in. What happens when Fogel defaults on the loan, fails to comply with the terms and conditions? Knowing that the, oh, well, they won't, standard issue answer is not acceptable. What exactly is the contingency plan and is the town liable at that point? What happens if the pocket is a quarter started and the funding lost? Are we then stuck with a hole in the ground and a pile of sticks? Should the town ever accept such a gift? Funding in the form of a loan to Fogel is in no way guaranteed unless the terms, which we don't know, are adhered to. Is it sound theory to accept money on a reimbursement basis? Who is providing the funding up front? What is the invoice? What if the invoice is not approved for whatever reason? This is also federal money. Is there any Fed reporting involvement? Sounds an awful lot like borrowing money off a friend that's borrowing it off a friend that's promised to lend it. Let's not forget, this is not the first time we've seen Fogel acting as a fiduciary on a project that has many of the same people to secure money for a project. Drive down Route 4 and you can see for yourself how these individuals execute their plans. The meeting house was supposed to be open for business last year after employing 5 to 10 skilled craftsmen, according to their application, which the town had to go to northern borders to get, as Fogel and MVP would not provide until they were told to. How is the future maintenance upkeep being funded? And again, the promise that we'll find the money is not acceptable. What happens when there's a 400% raise in the operating budget and no one to cover it? What happens when the money is not found? Is that a taxpayer issue? Grants and donations are not forever. Gilmington just asked the town for another $41,000 and has actually come to town for taxpayer money every year after making the same promises and heard repeatedly that they are the model for this project. The Gilmington year-round library is actually undergoing periods of closure when the taxpayers refuse to fund it. What happens when the project runs over budget? Who's on the book at that point? Are programs, subscriptions, expenses going to rise? This last library meeting, money was approved and spent with a comment. We don't need to worry about that. We don't have the money on the account on reimbursement. Is there any check balance system in place to ensure that spending doesn't increase 400% as well as just coming back from the town? I would expect increased operational hours and service would only bring more cost to reimbursement by the taxpayer. Brought up in the same trustee meeting was an alleged $2,000 letter from the attorney, which didn't cost that much nearly, if I remember correctly. After I checked, it would not have been needed at all if people could just have accepted the town vote and what the lawyer had already told them. And the fact that Fogel and the trustees are hiring a lawyer with the anticipation of litigation against the town. So the groups that sole purpose to improve the library is now taking donations that were made for that reason to hire a lawyer in conjunction with the trustees to fight with the town and cost the taxpayer more money. Please find attached a copy of the CDFA's policy regarding towards the loan grants. Is there a letter of commitment? What is the limited federal compliance requirements in uniform guidance? It also appears that this is not a straight loan, but rather a bunch of little loans to be given on an invoice basis. Looking at the grant requirements, is it even possible? With all the record keeping and reporting, is that not a financial burden on the taxpayer? What exactly is perpetual federal interest in the property? Plan for real property reporting and disposition plan? And do we want federal interest in town property? Is this proposed building ADA compliant? Does it meet building and fire standards for a municipal building? Does it need to be on B, or are we potentially walking into a situation that will require taxpayers to retrofit it to make it usable? There are state and federal guidelines on municipal buildings. Are we in a situation where these need to be reviewed? Thanks for your time, Tom McGinty. So here's a couple things I do want to go over. If you notice, when you look at this, there is a plan for the library, whole diagram. The diagram in here and what's on their website is 100 times different. In here, there's probably 12 bookshelves. Online, there's 5. 3 meeting rooms. There's 3 floors, no elevator. So, which means anyone that wants to work there can't be handicapped because they have to have access to all 3 floors. There's no second exit upstairs. So if there's a fire upstairs, you're hurling yourself off the balcony onto the floor to get out or out the window. When I see there's no sprinkler systems, which is required by New Hampshire fire marshals for municipal buildings. I was told that this is what they told me, the person that did this whole diagram. They are not needed because there's not going to be enough people in there. They do occupancy level by how many people it can hold, not how many people it's going to hold. A lot of people don't know this, a lot of people do. So those are my concerns with that. Leeway, you asked the question at the deliberative session that I've been asking for months. What happens after 2 years if you don't finish this? And what did we get for an answer? Oh, they'll extend it. Oh, they'll extend it. If someone's in the business of loaning money, they're not going to be too interested about extending, especially when it's $849,000. They could extend it. I don't know. They could. Their contract is, if they don't complete it, they have to pay back everything that was given to them. And it is a invoice-based system. They have to supply the invoice. It's not, it can be weekly, it can be monthly, it can be quarterly, but it's not instantly. You don't get the money back. They give them the invoice, they send the invoice to their board, and then the board decides, nope, we're not going to pay this. It doesn't fall under our guidelines. So it's not guaranteed that they're going to get the money for any of that stuff.
Sounds like there could be a lag time there too. If it has to go to a board for approval, I mean, how much time does that take?
You can't tell me a lot of these companies are going to be sitting with money out there, not going to want their money. A lot of the companies are local. Bob Center's on there. He's not a big company. He's not going to do hours and hours and hours of work. He's a nice guy. Don't get me wrong. Bob Center will probably let you slide for a bit. There's going to be time where you may start looking for money. Any other? We'll go right into it. Anyone got questions about any of this? Ryan?
Yeah, I certainly have a lot of the questions that Tom has. I think Tom's letter just kind of typifies that there's a lot of questions and confusion among the voters. Most people didn't know it was a forgivable loan, right? I think that's come up a lot. So, you said you have this this document here, and I think you said that's just the application. Is that correct?
This is everything that they gave CDFA
Okay.
for the grant.
So the town's, I don't want to get into like a word battle, but the town, whoever's application to them, but we still know the terms and conditions of the forgivable loan. Like, if you don't do this, then what happens? Like, is that information in there? If it's an application, I'm guessing not, but.
Tom gave us the paperwork and we downloaded the CDFA policy. Forgivable loan will have the following conditions. The award initial reservation of funds will be in the form of conditional commitment letter. Awards will be issued in the form of forgivable loan at 0% interest from a commitment letter to the construction period. The loan will have limited federal compliance requirements and uniform guidance. Funds will be issued on a reimbursement basis of eligible costs. The loan will be forgiven in full upon the completion of the project in adherence with the loan agreement. The awarded entity will be required to repay the loan if they fail to comply with the conditions of the award.
So that meshes with what we saw on the website, but I don't know, like usually with a loan, someone signs and then here's all the conditions, like that's our best guess, right? But we don't know the public as far as I can tell.
We don't have a document that
Yeah.
explains that right now, so it's.
And someone signs that that document, right?
Yeah.
And then who's on the hook? I can't imagine it not being the taxpayers, and that's why I care
Oh,
about
I do
this.
have, good.
That's the letter that they received
Oh.
from CDFI.
So we have the letter the CDFA sent to Elena about acceptance. Congratulations on February 13th, 2024, the Community Development Finance Authority Board of Directors affirmed the conditional approval of your community center investment program application on behalf of the Friends of Grafton Library in the amount of $845,844. The order is contingent upon demonstration of the following conditions. 1. Use of funds conforms with local, state, and federal regulations, including federal guidance as defined as the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA, HR 1319, Section 9901, and compliance with the uniform guidance known as 2 CFR 200 requirements. So I have to look up. Continued demonstration of compliance with the CDFA guidance and minimum threshold criteria, including but not limited to. Project is within the scope of the program criteria and definitions outlined in the application and program guide. Matching funds are secured. ADA accessibility when the project is completed. Compliance with local, state, and federal laws guidance. Capacity to carry out the project and financial needs for the resources. Requirements of the CDFA energy policy has been met. And readiness for implementation is evident. Specifically, that construction will start within 6 months and be completed by the program's required end date. Submission of the detailed project budget outlining eligible expenses. Compliance with other program compliance requirements. Receipt of town meeting approval for the gift of land in the time frame determined by CDFA will meet the deadline to begin construction. The award is also contingent per the overall findings of the administrative review process for scored but non-awarded projects. All scored but non-awarded applicants have up to 15 days to request an administrative review, and funding will be contingent upon final decision of the review process. Funds will be available for the project after the contract is executed between CDFA and eligible entity authorized official. The authorized official for the organization must be set in a grant management system prior to releasing the contract. The authorized official must have the authority to act on behalf of the organization. Awards are issued in the form of forgivable loans at 0% interest or a grant. The loan will be forgiven in full upon completion of the project and evidence of certificate of occupancy. So, after reading that, you can take it how you want, but I don't see them meeting state regulations. So, deliberative session was actually the first time we have ever heard this being a law. That was news to all of us, news to our lawyer.
I can add to that a little bit. You know, I had heard on the street prior to deliberative session that the language said forgivable loan instead of grant. However, I didn't think that was a very important item, and we had not received a copy of the grant, and it wasn't until the night before that we actually had a copy, a physical copy that I could take home and take a look at.
Diane had to.
And that was because Diane did a 91A
Had to fight it.
and I had to fight to get it. And unfortunately, the lawyer, and he did not know until deliberative session because he had no time to review the grant prior to that. In fact,
First time you saw the grant was at deliberative.
first time he saw the grant is after that was brought up at deliberative session, and he asked me if I had a copy. So unfortunately, that was the first time, and the board was not made aware of that. The board was not We were offered a copy of the grant application back in November, and we specifically asked Vogel,
Yeah, I
can we
remember.
get a copy of this?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be in electronic format?
And then they came back and said, we voted to not give you a copy.
Because they were gun shy.
Yeah. And if it goes back through all the meetings, every time they've talked about it, they've said grant. It's a grant. It's a grant. Now he's kind of, I see why they didn't want to give us information.
Is this public comment question still? Yeah, it was a shock to me and I think everybody else, but we got to see the actual verbiage, so hence my question at deliberative and why I was confused and continue to be confused. Okay, it seems that both sides are luring up for this. Is there anything you guys can do or are doing to prevent this from being a not library and like a lot of taxes